Hi guys, welcome to June's Dispatches, and quite an unusual set of dispatches it is as well. Might not be a huge amount of figures. In fact, there's only 20 figures. But before I begin everything, let me make a little apology for being a wee bit later with dispatches than normal. And the reason for that was yesterday I just came back from my summer holidays in Japan. Had a wonderful time. Was inspired by lots of things, and I'd just like to say a big shout out to Japan. It's the most amazing country. Super safe, super clean, and guess what? Super Japanese. It's just a wonderful place to go to. I can't recommend it highly enough. The people are so friendly. There's so much to see. The countryside is beautiful. In fact, for more than half the holiday, I was actually walking through the countryside with a walking group. So I get lots of exercise, lots of relaxation, and back to Hong Kong and back to work. But if you ever get a chance, visit Japan. Now, this being June, of course, that's the anniversary of D-Day, which I'm recording this on the 5th of June. And again, as some of you know, in fact, I think nearly all of you know, the 5th of June was actually supposed to be D-Day itself. That's when British and American and Canadian forces were going to land on the beaches of Normandy, but due to really bad weather, it was postponed 24 hours. So the actual landing on D-Day of Operation Overlord was the 6th of June. Now, sadly, we don't have any D-Day releases here, but June's another anniversary and another war. And in fact, the first figures I'm going to be talking about are our very latest Falklands War figures. Now, the Falklands War began on the 2nd of April and finished with the surrender of all Argentine forces on the Falklands on the 14th of June. But on the evening and when going into the day or early morning of the 11th, 12th of June, one of the most important battles of the Falklands was fought on Mount Longdon. And that was with men of the 3rd Parachute Regiment assaulting the Argentine defences on that mountain. It lasted many hours, a lot of casualties, and against all odds, the Paras actually took the mountain and helped speed towards the eventual surrender of all Argentine forces, as I've previously mentioned. So what we have here, and I'll begin with the little action sets that are down the front here, is we have two figure sets and one single figure. So there's basically made up of three members of 3 Para and 2 Argentine defenders. And as you can see, and it's a reality that the battle itself eventually devolved into a lot of hand-to-hand fighting. And to get right down to it, the first step, we're actually calling this Don't Cry For Me, Argentina. And the first set we're releasing is TF015, which is these two guys here. And as you may see, the paratrooper, the British paratrooper, has got the bayonet fixed to his SLR, and it looks like he's caught this particular Argentine soldier by surprise, who's in for a bit of a nasty surprise. And, well, don't know if it'll be fatal, but it'll certainly put him out of action, the way this para's behaving. The other two-figure set here is another hand-to-hand set, and it's called basically giving the butt. And what the guy here is doing, I think it may be that the Para's run out of ammo, not time to change in the magazine, and he's actually using the butt of his SLR to give this poor Argentine soldier a blow to the head, or at least the neck, and put him down as well. So great two-figure action sets, and a kneeling figure here of the 3rd paratrooper has got his Sterling SMG up in the shoulder, and it looks like he's either going to fire some covering fire or he's waiting until one or either of the Argentinians has separated from the British paratrooper to fire a few fatal rounds into the enemy. So that's these guys here. Now, over on this side, we've moved from the parachute regiment, or 3 para, to some of our Royal Marines. And we've actually got 3 Royal Marines here and a little group of what I call the original Falkland Islanders. And in case you're wondering what that is, it's the penguins. In this case, a trio of king penguins. And these wonderful animals exist, and there are many, many thousands all over the Falklands. So to say that they're probably interested observers of what was going on between different members of humanity during the Falklands War would be a slight understatement. Anyway, let's begin here with this little set here, which I've called, "What are you looking at?" I don't know whether it's the penguin saying that or it's the bootneck, the Royal Marine, who's looking down. This particular bootneck is on his back, has got his large pack as well as his bedroll. And as you know, many of the guys that took part in the yomping across the Falklands during that campaign were carrying anywhere from 80, 90, 100 pounds of equipment on their back during that campaign. Unbelievable stamina and strength required to do that. Anyway, this particular bootneck is having a little rest on his weapon, which I think, yes, is the GPMG, or we used to call it the Jimpy. I think they might still call it the Jimpy, the General Purpose Machine Gun. Anyway, he's looking down at the penguin. The penguin's looking up at him. A great little 2-figure set and quite unique. Now, another 2-figure set, another 2 bootnecks, is these 2 guys here. Now, as you can see, I've called, now let me just get the right note, of course. This set is called Time for Some Scran and a Wet. Now, in the Marines, we've always had our own lingo or slang that is known to other Marines, and that's actually quite funny. So, for instance, in case you're wondering what scran is any kind of food or rations that you eat in the field, or even if you're not in the field, you're back in barracks, all food is referred to as scran. And time for some scran and a wet. Now, a wet is not about going for a pee. A wet is about having a hot drink. In this case, this Marine is standing there with the cup from his canteen, and in that he'll probably have some hot chocolate or tea or coffee or whatever he can heat up that's warm that will help keep out some of that terrible weather that these guys face down the Falklands. And again, if you look on the back of this particular guy, he's got his large pack and his bedroll on the back. He's carrying his SLR rifle and his Oppo down here, who's got his little mess cooker, and he's got his mess tin with not quite sure what's in it. It looks like he's heating up a little tin of beans, which used to get that in your ration packs as well. He's got that in there, and he's heating that up. While he's heating that up, he's having a fag, or as we say, a cigarette. Next to him, resting on his bipod, is his Bren gun. And that's the L4A1. Now, that was the updated, upgraded Bren gun from World War II, which was rechambered to fire 7.62 rounds, the same rounds that were used in GPMG and the SLR. And many of these had technically been retired from regular British Army use by the time of the Falklands, but they were still in many unit armories. So when the Marines in particular, and I think some of the paras, went down south with the task force, the quartermasters in all the different units made sure that the boys took with them as many extra machine guns, well, light machine guns or whatever, particularly light machine guns like the Bren, all the way down to Falklands to provide additional fire support. So that's why he's got his Bren gun down next to him. If you look carefully here, his little steel helmet is down by his side. And as I say, having a little break before they get on their feet again and start marching. But great little set. Now, as I mentioned earlier, This last little three-figure set is a little trio of Falklands penguins. And I recommend anyone that's interested in this series or collects this series really got to get some penguins. Yeah, you can't really tell the story of this campaign in this unique little group of islands far, far away from Britain without these little guys. So heartily recommended are these blokes. So we're going to move from the Falklands War all the way up to this rather amazing aircraft here. Now, this is one of our custom-made B-24 Liberator warbirds. Now, these are hand-carved in kiln-dried mahogany, individually hand-painted, and this particular B-24 Liberator is called Mail Call, not M-A-I-L, but M-A-L-E. And this was the personal aircraft, or one of the aircraft flown by Major James Stewart, the famous movie star who joined the US Army Air Force with the outbreak of war for America, anyway, in 1941, and served throughout the war with the Army Air Force. And at the time that he flew this plane was part of the 453rd Bomb Group based at RAF Buckingham in Norfolk. Very famous aircraft. It flew 95 bombing missions over enemy territory during its life, and it actually arrived in early 1944 in the UK, and obviously it was flying out of Buckingham Airfield during that period. The Liberator itself is interesting because not as famous perhaps as the B-17 Flying Fortress, but in actual fact, there was more Liberators built than Flying Fortresses. There was something like 18,500 four-engine Liberators built during the war. There's a handful of them left. There's a couple, I believe, still flying in the States. Amazing aircraft, substantially bigger than the B-17 and carrying a formidable bomb load. So this particular aircraft is available direct from King Country. And if you're interested in it, please contact us directly. Now, around this aircraft are 9 Army Air Force ground crew figures, and they're split into 2 4-man sets. So 4 guys here and 4 guys here, and a little single ground crew guy on top here. If any of you have got any of our World War II aircraft, whether they be the special warbirds, the handmade warbirds like this, or any of our P-51 Mustangs, Thunderbolts, or what have you, any that served with the Army Air Force, then I recommend these 9 figures. They really add to any scene. Now, in this particular case, looks as if they're relaxing, which is either they're getting ready to go to work or they've been working all day and they're just having a break. But you can see how well they work with a model like this. But they could work equally well with any of our fighter aircraft that we've done also. So that's those guys. Again, if I can draw your attention, you'll see that many of them are wearing ball caps. Some of the ball caps are obviously Army issue, but you'll also notice that some of the guys are wearing civilian ones that are either from baseball or football teams. Oops, this guy, for instance, has got the Reds. I think that might be the Cincinnati Reds, and he's got the Reds painted on the back of his overalls. There's another guy. Let's see who. Oh yeah, this guy here. He's got a Chicago Cubs ball cap, and he's got the name of the Chicago Cubs on the back too. Great little add-on set to really help make your airplane displays come alive. And all I can say is I heartily recommend them to you. Then finally we come to the last 3 editions for the moment of our classic French line infantry. And basically we've got kneeling loading, kneeling, reaching for a new fresh cartridge, and kneeling ready. Uh, 3 individual figures to add on. I think we've now done about 17 of the French line infantry, so that'll bring it up to around 20. So that's the story for June. Apologies again for the slight delay, but put that down to my holiday in Japan. I should say that I'm going to be down in Australia, and I'll be fortunate enough to visit collectors and a couple of our dealers in Brisbane and Sydney, and that'll be in the middle of July, I think. But until that time, there's a lot of great stuff in the pipeline that I'm very excited about, and I'll be telling you about in the coming months. And I have to say, there was a lot of inspiration for me in Japan too. But that's another story, and I'll leave that to an even later date. Anyway, on that cheerful note, hope all of you are having a great summer, and enjoy. Cheers.